Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Is it just me, or is this year flying by? By the time this episode is released, rolling into late March, March Madness is underway. It's interesting, in my younger years, as a kid, I played basketball. It was the sport that I loved. It was the thing that I would say still, from an athletic standpoint, I was best at in my life. And there was a time where I absolutely loved March Madness. Seeing the college kids go at it was always exciting. There's so many schools, so much talent out there that you'd never heard of that would show up during the month of March. But as time went on, I guess priorities change, life gets in the way, and I really don't pay much attention to it anymore. I used to religiously fill out brackets and bought completely into the March Madness excitement, but it's just not there for me anymore. I guess all of that energy and enthusiasm now goes to the game of golf. That's life. Things change. So this week, we wanted to share a great article that I read, which was called 7 Common Mistakes I See Every Week That Are Killing Your Score. An article written by Carly Cummins. And I get where she's coming from. Some of these things have been issues in my game. Some of these things have killed my score in the past, and some of these things I continue to work on. But wanted to read through that article, talk about it a little bit, and then get into my golf weekend. Last week, I believe I nearly declared myself the best putter on the planet, putting better than a scratch golfer on a regular basis. And let's see, did that momentum carry from one weekend to the next? You'll find out. Hang in there. But first, let's get to Carly Cummins and the 7 common mistakes I see every week that are killing your golf score. So the article that I wanted to read is titled, "I'm a Single-Figure Golfer, 7 Common Mistakes I See Every Week That Are Killing Your Score." And this is written by Carly Cummins. And as always, I will link the article in the show notes if you would like to read it for yourself. But wanted to read through it, see if any of these things ring a bell with you. And I'm certainly looking to see how many of these things I do or do not do. So the article reads, "I pride myself on playing with golfers of all abilities, no matter what handicap, age, or stage of their golfing journey. There are some common trends I see among higher handicappers that cause them to waste shots during a round. These scorecard killers are simply things that could easily be undone. Here's the 7 I see most frequently. Poor putting pace control. Putting is nearly always the number one cause of wasted shots that I see during a round of golf. I'm guilty of recording the odd 3 putt myself. The most common cause for taking more than 2 putts on the greens is poor pace control. The first putt is the critical marker. No matter how far away you are from the pin, you should be concentrating on rolling the lag putt with the correct pace to get it to the hole, to give it a chance of going in and not leaving it short or racing it past. So many golfers I play with obsess over the line, even when they're 50 feet away. In reality, although aiming is important, it's far more critical on short putts than long putts. You could be a few feet wide with your read, but if you have rolled the ball with the perfect pace, then you'll still only have a short putt to hole out. There are a number of ways you can improve pace control. Making sure that you roll a few long putts on the practice green before you tee off might sound obvious. But even if I arrive with only 2 minutes to spare, I always do. Practice green will give you an indication of how slow or fast the surfaces are rolling on that day. If you get to the first green without rolling a single practice putt, you are guessing. The best pace control putting lesson that I ever had was from a PGA professional who told me that the tempo of my putting stroke should remain the same no matter what length of putt I face. To alter the distance the ball rolls, simply alter the length of your stroke. This has always worked for me. Coming up short. Selecting the correct club for the yardage is the one thing I believe differentiates good players from higher handicappers. The latter nearly always come up short for two reasons. First, they think that they hit the ball further than they do, and secondly, because they are inconsistent. By that, what I mean is that maybe 1 in every 10 shots might be struck perfectly and will travel the full distance they are expecting. The rest are marginally worse, and for every slight miss hit, you'll lose a few yards. So instead of picking the club for the distance to the pin, do as I do and check the distance to the back of the green instead. Assuming the pin isn't hanging precariously close to the back and the whole lot of trouble, then take one extra club than you need. Adding 5 to 10 yards onto your distance to the pin will very rarely send your shot soaring over the green. Not knowing your yardages. Following on from the point above, the second part of the problem of poor distance control and golfers not peppering the pin with pinpoint accuracy is that they simply don't know how far they hit their clubs. Golf is a numbers game, yet it's amazing how many golfers I play with who are clueless about how far they hit their clubs and consequently choose poorly. The most important number you need to know is your carry distance for every club, how far it travels on the fly. The total distance, which includes run out upon landing, will vary throughout the year and depends on course, ground, and weather conditions. The best golf watches and rangefinders make learning your distances easy. Simply have a session on a launch monitor, ideally one set up outside on a driving range with proper golf balls. But an indoor simulator will also work. Hit 10 shots or more with each club and take the average carry distance. Then write your numbers down on a chart. I did this with my son as a beginner, printed his yardage chart and stuck it to his trolley handle to help him select the correct club himself. Obviously, as your technique improves, you'll start to hit the ball better and further, so it's worth repeating this exercise at least once a year. Likewise, if you get a new set of golf clubs, your yardages may change. The best players in the world take this knowledge to a far more advanced level of detail. They know their numbers for full swing, half swing, and three-quarter swing shots. Suddenly, rather than having one go-to distance for every club, they have 3. This versatility adds a level of shot-making precision that will take your accuracy to another level. Choosing the wrong club from the rough. Every week, without fail, I walk into the rough to hunt for my playing partner's ball, find it, usually in a poor lie, then wince when I watch them reach for a hybrid to hit it out. I think the club manufacturers have a lot to blame for this by suggesting in their marketing that these clubs are designed to rescue your game in their very name. The only time I would ever consider using a hybrid out of the rough is if the ball was perched right up on top of the thick grass, almost teed up. Never from a buried lie. 99% of the time, I will reach for a lofted wedge, take my medicine, and just get the ball back out into play. By choosing a hybrid because you think the club is designed to be used from difficult lies, getting you out and further down the fairway, you are limiting your chances of recovering at all. The lower loft will make it much harder to get the ball airborne from a bad lie. You also need to use much more of an aggressive downward swing action, almost like chopping wood, to deliver a downward blow into the back of the ball and pop it out. To do this successfully, you need the bladed edge of a lofted iron to cut through the rough. Playing a pitching wedge for every shot. When it comes to shot saving, there's no better place to do it than around the greens. Every golfer, no matter their strength or age, can become skillful on short game shots. There really isn't a one club suits all option. I remember making this mistake as a beginner. I'd have a chip to play, so I'd always select the same wedge, not taking into account the distance it has to travel. Yet so many golfers I play with do just that. They lack versatility around the greens. They only have one technique, the basic chip and run shot, that they always play with the same club, usually their pitching wedge. The difference you see with better players is how more advanced their short game skills are. They have mastered many different options. Having a large repertoire of short game skills in your armory will undoubtedly save you shots. You'll get up and down more frequently. Examples include using a hybrid like a putter when playing a long chip and run to a distant pin, and using a sand wedge or lob wedge to play a very lofted flop shot over a bunker. No routine for alignment. One of the basic fundamentals of golf is the ability to aim accurately. Understanding that the basis for good alignment is to get your feet aiming parallel to the target line. Like you are standing on a set of train tracks, the upper track is the one that points to the target. that your golf ball sits on. The bottom track is for your feet. It's crazy how many golfers I play with who get this wrong, aiming their feet and their upper body shoulders at the target instead. So when I'm standing behind them, they look like they're aiming just way off to the right. In part, I think a lack of understanding is the cause, but more so, it's just that they aren't following a simple routine to help them aim correctly. It's lazy. I was always taught to stand behind the golf ball, look at my target, and then pick something on the ground just ahead of it, like a leaf or a blemish in the grass, to aim the club at that. Then to imagine a parallel line for my feet to stand on. Again, looking for something on the ground to help you aim them correctly. Forming your stance in the setup this way will make aiming far easier. Getting stuck in sand. No speed, no commitment, fear. Common trends I see in golfers who fail to get out of bunkers. Sand shots are the bane of many golfers' lives. The very sight of seeing their ball roll into a bunker fills them with dread. A common mistake I see in golfers who struggle is that they rush in to play the sand shot and rarely consider all of their options for getting out first. If you genuinely lack confidence and clubhead speed, then it's unlikely that you'll successfully splash a sand shot out from under a steep lip. But there's always the option to play out sideways or backwards. This isn't defeatist. It's just sensible course management. Bunkers are nearly always flat at the entry point where the ball rolls in. It's far better to waste one shot playing out sideways or backwards than to take 10 attempts trying to get out from an impossible lie or tricky position under the lip. Sometimes you just need to take a minute, pause, assess the situation, and consider all the options before you decide in what direction to play. So thanks again to Carly Cummins. I thought this was an excellent article and wanted to go back through and unpack this a little bit, talk about how these things impact my golf game. And as always, I'd love to hear from you. Is there something that's stuck out here that you struggle with, or something that you've worked out and you feel like you've mastered and you have a story to tell about how you improve this in your golf game? But the first one was poor putting pace control. And I do think this one and hitting a lag putt is something that is really challenging for high handicap beginning golfers. And I agree completely with what Carly had to say. Is really important to hit the practice putting green before you hit the course. And just like she said, even if I get to the course with 5 minutes to spare before teeing off, I'm hitting the green. And while I play the same course frequently, the speed of the greens changes based on weather and rain. How dry are they? Have they just been aerated? Did they sand the greens? I think a lot can go into how the greens are rolling. So personally, I like to hit a few 3 or 4 foot putts, move back 6, 7, 8 feet, and then I will move back and hit a lag putt from 25 or 30 feet. And to Carly's point, I'm not so much worried about getting it to go on the hole as I am in pace. Was it a good speed? And did I leave myself the ability to two putt? The next one she talked about was coming up short. And this is an interesting one because I think she's right. I think when amateurs miss greens, frequently they miss short, but I'm going to add a but on that. I'm looking at my rounds of golf over this past weekend, and in the round that I played on Saturday, of the greens I missed, 39% of my misses were short, 17% were left, and 11% were right. On Sunday, my misses again were 33% short, 6% left, and 28% right. So you could say that, again, that is the largest percentage of my misses. I don't have any where I missed long. But for me, I don't necessarily think that means I don't know my yardages or I selected the wrong clubs. Frequently, when I'm missing short, it's because I hit a drive to a place where I have no shot into the green. And it's not, it could be from a distance perspective that there's just no way to get there. But frequently, I'm behind a tree. I'm in a place where I just don't have a shot at the green. So on a par 4, hit a bad drive. My second shot, I'm trying to move it back up and out into the fairway, and I'm really not going after the green until my third shot. But that's going to be noted as I came up short. So I also do think she makes a good point about knowing your yardages, knowing the right club to hit. And I actually changed that early in the day, especially go out play early in the morning. I feel like until I warm up a little bit and my body's really moving well, I almost always take an extra club. I'm just not hitting the ball as far at 7:30 a.m. as I am at 9 a.m. And that's even if I go out and warm up before the round. It takes me a little while to get going. The other thing that I talked about last week is that I've historically always used a rangefinder to shoot the flag. And I made a purchase that I'm going to do something a little different going forward. My shot scope did arrive on Sunday after my rounds of golf, but this device, as opposed to shooting the flag, will allow me to know what's the distance to the front, what's the distance to the middle, and what's the distance to the back. And I'm wondering if that makes any difference in my club selection. I will report back on that. The next one was choosing the wrong club from the rough. I did try this a couple times because you do hear that hybrids are a rescue club. And it didn't take me long to figure out that I've never had any success hitting a hybrid out of the rough. Now, I do think I select the wrong club sometimes because I'll be in deep rough and I'm 170 yards out and I'll think, all right, if I hit this well with a 5-iron, I can get it there. That's a bad decision. I think to Carly's point, what I should be playing there is probably never any more than a 9-iron and take my medicine. This again is a shot that's going to come up short of the green, but make sure I put the ball in a position where I do have a real shot into the green on my next shot. The next one she talked about was playing a pitching wedge for every shot. This is something that I still do some days pretty consistently because I just haven't had confidence with any other club. But I've been working at it. I've been working with hitting lob shots, hitting pitches instead of chips, because there are times where you've got to hit a ball up over a bunker onto the green. And I've been working hard to use a 56 degree or a sand wedge for those shots. And I'm getting better at it. Not there yet, not 100%, but I do use a few different clubs to chip or pitch onto the green based on the situation in front of me. The next one was no routine for alignment. And I think this is, again, another great point. I do try to do what Carly suggested, which is before hitting a shot, I stand behind the ball and draw a line in my mind to the flag, and then follow that line back to the ball and pick a spot a couple of feet, no more, in front of the ball. And that's the target that I'm focused on when I line up and I align the club. Now, I do think I can do a better job with aligning my feet because while the club is pointing at, in theory, the target I've selected, I do think I get a little squirrely with my feet sometimes. And I think it creates some of my misses right and my misses left. So again, that's something for me to work on, is making sure that my stance is square. I am aimed at the target and my feet are properly aligned with that target. And then the last one, which I have talked about in depth on this podcast, is getting stuck in the sand. This continues to be a challenge, a battle. I do think it's getting a little better, but if I had to give my sand game a grade, or let's go with a number, 1 being I am the best sand wedge player in the world, 10 being I have no chance of getting out of a bunker. A month ago, I would have given myself probably a 10. I have no chance of getting out of a bunker. I would move that up now to probably a 7. I am doing a better job of getting out of bunkers. I struggle with distance control. I'm still sometimes leaving it a lot shorter than I would like, sometimes hitting it a lot further than I would like. But this goes back to using different clubs, learning how the sand shot is a pitch as opposed to a chip. And it's something I continue to work at because it's an excellent point. And I've talked about it, that there have been given days where being in a bunker is a 2 to 3 stroke penalty. And if I hit 2 or 3 bunkers in a day, that's a lot of strokes. So to Carly's point, while I'd really have to swallow my pride, sometimes it probably would be better to just chip out sideways or backwards and take a 1-stroke penalty, which then allows me to hit my next shot onto the green. So that's something for me to think about. I think when I walk up on a shot like that, I really have to consider where my confidence level is. And if there's a way for me to get that ball out of the bunker and leave what I think is a favorable shot into the green on my next one, that's probably a good way to go. So again, did anything on this list ring true to you? Is there something here that you're working on or something that made you stop and go, yeah, that's a good point. That is something I could do better. So reach out, let me know. But thanks to Carly, great article. So beautiful weekend this weekend in South Florida. And I probably say that a lot. If you stick with me and hang in there with the podcast for another month or two, you'll find that I stopped saying it because this time of the year it's a great time of the year to be in Florida. There are a lot of people down here. People are on spring break. People are on vacation. You get snowbirds that come down from the northern states, from Canada, and there's a reason why they're here. The weather is awesome. I'm here to tell you it won't last. We've got maybe another month or two, and then it will be summer and it will be miserable for the next 6 months. So, yep, it is really nice right now. I'm enjoying it. Both rounds of golf I played this weekend, it was in the low 60s at the time we teed off, about 8 o'clock in the morning. And when we finished the rounds, it had gone up to about 80 degrees. So it's about as near perfect as you could get, in my opinion, for a round of golf. So went out Saturday and got to the course early, which I haven't done in a while. That used to be every round. I would get to the course, I would hit a bucket of balls before going out and playing golf. And over time, I'm just not sure if it helps me anymore. Not that I don't need the practice, not that I don't need to hit golf balls, but I do also think that when I'm playing 2 rounds over the weekend, there's only so many shots in me. And I think when I push it hard, when I hit a bucket, I go out and play Saturday, hit another bucket, go out and play Sunday. I feel like physically it wears me out, and I start to feel it midway through the round on Sunday. And that may be hip pain or back pain, but I do think, I don't know what the number is. There's a number of shots that I could take every weekend. And if I exceed that number, it hurts my golf game. So anyway, first time in a long time, hit the range before I went out to play golf, and it did not go well. You know, sometimes you get to the range and I'm not sure which is better, but you just put on a stripe show, and with every club, you're just hitting rockets straight at your target, and you think, man, this is going to be a good day. Well, Saturday was one of those days where I couldn't hit anything. Didn't matter. Pitching wedge, 9-iron, 7-iron, 6-iron, hybrid, 3-wood, drop, anything and everything I tried. All of my irons I was hitting thin, having trouble just getting the ball off the ground. And then the hybrid, which isn't all that unusual, couldn't hit it all. Slicing 3-wood, slicing driver, and thought, you know what? Today is going to be an interesting day. But what happens on the range doesn't always carry forward. Sometimes you have a great day on the range and go out and play terrible golf. Sometimes you have a terrible day on the range and go out and play good golf. So continued through my routine, went to the putting green, hit some putts, went to the chipping green, chipped and pitched a little bit, and then teed off. Played with Jason, who was back after being at TPC Sawgrass last weekend for the Players Championship, and Al. Again, absolutely fantastic day to go out and play golf. So teed off, first hole at Oriole is a par 5. Hit my drive. I hit an okay drive. Was a little left of fairway, but a good lie, and decided, I think I'd hit, again, par 5. I had 240 or 250 in. And for whatever reason, I just felt like I wanted to test out the 3-wood early in the day and see if I could hit it. Well, I did test it. I hit the ball 20 yards further left and didn't go real well. Next shot, I said, all right, didn't hit the 3-wood well. Let's try the hybrid. Didn't hit that much better. So took 3 shots, was still 100 yards out from the green. Ended up making a triple on the opening hole on the par 5. And I'm not sure how I felt about it. I mean, looking back on it, normally after that tee shot, I'd hit an iron, try and leave myself in a place where I could get a wedge into the green. There's no real reason. I mean, it is a straightaway par 5, about 480 yards. There's no reason to make an 8 on that hole. I really do think it's one of the easiest holes in the course. And I just took chances with clubs that some days I hit well, but historically don't hit all that great. Just wanted to see if it was something that I should or would take out of my bag the rest of the day. And pretty quickly found out that nope, they were not clubs that I would be pulling out the rest of the day. So after the triple on 1, I settled down, bogey on 2, par on 3, bogey 4, 5, and 6, par on 7, bogey on 8, and then a double on 9 for a 46 on the front. What I would say is I was hitting driver really well, but the challenges that I had on the range continued through the first 9 holes with me hitting really every iron from wedges to the 5-iron thin. I just could not find the ground, could not make good contact with the ground. And kind of back to the Carly Cummins article, that throws your yardages way off when I get it. I'm not always going to make perfect contact, but I made really poor contact on the front 9 on Saturday. Move on to the back, continue to hit driver well, and started to find the irons a little bit. So I make the turn and 3-putt for a triple on 10, but then make a par on 11, come back, and this is a killer on the par 5 12th, hit the green in regulation, another 3-putt for a 6 for a bogey on that, par 13, par 14, bogey 15, 16, 17, and par 18 for a 43 on the back and an 89 on Saturday. Now, what do I glean? What do I take away from that round on Saturday? And I mentioned it before, is that last week I talked about how good my putting had been, and that I really felt like I had started to figure things out from a putting standpoint, especially from a lag putting standpoint, and leaving long putts close enough to the hole to make 2. Last weekend had 26 putts on Saturday, 28 putts on Sunday, which is just phenomenal. But go out on Saturday and 34 putts, which that's a problem. And that included 3 3-putts, which just didn't happen the week before. So what a difference that would have made, right? I mean, 8 less strokes if I had been putting like I was putting last week. all of a sudden, again, in that neighborhood where it's, hey, I could potentially break 80. But the putter, I didn't feel like I putted the ball badly. Just last week, and I think I said it, I did not miss a thing inside of 8 feet. This week I did. Just didn't have it. Did whatever I had going for me last week, I did not have this week. So move on to Sunday. Swore that I would not make the same mistake that I did on Saturday and allow the first hole, again, which is really a relatively simple hole, to get me. And I did play it better. So par 5 first hole, hit a green in regulation, and my putting woes continue. I 3-putt for a bogey on the first hole of the day. Move on to the second hole of the day. And on Sunday, played with Al again, but was also playing with longtime golfing friends, Jake and Allison, and had not played with them. Just our timing hadn't worked out earlier in the year, so it had been a little while. Enjoyed playing with both. Jake is a good golfer. I would say when he's playing really well, can shoot high 70s, but generally is in the low to mid 80s. And I had just told him on the first tee box that over the past couple of weeks, I had really been hitting driver well. Had my other challenges, but had been hitting driver well. Move on to the second tee box, and I nearly missed the ball with the driver. Goes off the heel of the club, lands a little forward of the ladies' tees. So I may have hit the ball 60 yards, and I landed in a really bad spot where, of course, I'm behind some trees that I have to deal with. My second shot, I have a window to get through some of the trees and back out into the fairway. I pull out a 5-iron, and I'm basically just trying to chip the ball with a 5-iron, keep it low to the ground, keep it under the tree branches, out into the fairway. So I hit it exactly how I wanted, but there was a tree branch that had fallen off of the tree, was laying on the ground, and one of the arms of this tree branch was sticking up in the air. It couldn't have been more than a centimeter in diameter, but somehow my ball hit that tree branch that was sticking up off the ground, ricocheted further left and up against a fence. So, needless to say, second hole did not turn out well. So a triple on the second hole, put up a 7 on the par 4. Bogey the par 3 third, bogey the par 4 fourth, but then settle back in a little bit again. Par on 5, par on 6, bogey on 7, par on 8, par on 9 for a 43 on the front, which is the best front 9 that honestly I've had in a while. But I still, while the driver came back around a little bit after the second hole, still wasn't where it had been, and still honestly struggling with the irons. Make the turn to 10 and hit a good drive. Second shot into the green, I left right of the green, and I hit just a fantastic chip shot. So one of the things I talked about last week was thinking about your shot, knowing what you want to do. I was maybe 10 yards off the green, steep uphill, so I'm well below the green, and a tough place to hit a flop and get it to hold the green. So basically, I told Jake, I said, look, I'm just going to try and bump this one into that hill, run it up onto the green, and I hit it. I hit it as well as you could possibly hit it. Bumps into the hill, up onto the fringe, rolls down to basically a place where I can tap in for par. And that felt good. Felt good to save par on 10. Bogey on 11, bogey on 12, double bogey on 13. Now I'm grinding. Now the driver's starting to fade away. The irons are getting away from me a little bit. In my mind, I know I played a decent front at 43. And when I look at my last 4, 5, 6 rounds, normally on the back, I'm shooting 40, 41, and I'm thinking this should be a good day, but it's starting to get away from me. Turn it around on 14, par the par 3 14th, bogey on 15, bogey on 16, double bogey on 17. I move on to 18, and the driver is completely gone. I hit a big slice off to the right. Talked about the 18th hole before. If you go way right, you end up in the 17th fairway, and it's not a bad angle in. You don't go far enough right, you leave it in tree trouble, which is what I did again. Had to punch out of the trees, hit a really good third shot to about 8 feet from the pin, missed that putt, and double bogey on 18 for a 46 and my second round of 89 for the weekend. So my initial feeling about my back-to-back 89s over the weekend was frustration. And Saturday, I shoot 46 on the front, 43 on the back. Sunday, I shoot 43 on the front, 46 on the back. Before that 46 on the back on Sunday, my last 4 rounds, my scores on the back are 41, 40, 44, 43. And I again go back to, why is it that I can't keep it together for a whole round of golf? And that I still get into these periods, these lulls where I know what I'm supposed to do. I know I need to keep the doubles and triples off the card, and I'm out there, man, am I battling for bogeys. I'm doing everything I can to save bogey. If I hit a bad drive, like, all right, it's okay. I hit a bad drive. Let's find a way to make bogey here. That's the goal. Now, my putting, honestly, it let me down this weekend. That is not a good putting performance. Actually, 2 of my worst putting performances of the month with a 34 and a 33. So, and like I said earlier, I don't feel like I was way off. I'm certainly a little off, and I wasn't making everything I had made the week before, but the putts just weren't dropping. Lipped out quite a few, and I guess it's just golf. Like, sometimes things are going your way, sometimes they're not. But as I dig in a little further and look at the rounds of golf that I have played so far in the month of March, and I've played 6 rounds of golf. It's been a really consistent 6 rounds, and I'm averaging 87.83 strokes per round, which is down nearly 6 strokes from my February 93.5, which was down from my January 93.6. So I look at that and I think, really, I should feel pretty good about that I am playing better golf in March than I have played so far this year. And that's true, but it's just a battle out there, and I can't explain it. There were moments last year where I just felt confident on the golf course. I felt walking onto a hole like, I am going to par this hole, that I am dialed in. I'm going to hit a good drive. I'm going to hit a good iron. I know I can make a putt. And I haven't found that level of confidence. I haven't gotten into that kind of flow this year. And I think confidence is a key word there. While I really have been hitting driver better, my irons have not been good. And I mentioned it before that that's generally been the thing that's bailed me out, is that once I get an iron in my hand, I feel like, okay, I can make this shot. But I don't feel that way right now over an iron. Having a hard time finding bottom. I'm having a hard time with club face control, having a hard time with direction. Nothing's easy. There's not a hole. And I played some decent golf this weekend. I mean, I made 6 pars on Saturday, 6 pars on Sunday. But even those were a battle. That there's just nothing has been easy. The upside, and we talked about last week, that if I am going to break 80, I have got to hit more greens in regulation. And I set a target moving forward, and that target was a goal of hitting 6 greens in regulation on average. I did that this weekend. I hit 6 greens in regulation on Saturday, 6 greens in regulation on Sunday. So I guess I should feel positive, may be the wrong word, but I should feel hopeful that things are moving in a good direction. That while the scores aren't necessarily reflecting it, and my handicap is surely not reflecting it, I am playing better golf. The numbers indicate that I'm playing better golf. And I think a piece of that is I have improved at scrambling. I'm doing a better job of getting up and down. And the driver play has been huge, but it it went away over the last 6 or 7 holes that I played, and I just can't figure it out because I don't feel like clearly I am, but I don't feel like I'm doing anything different on the tee. But all of a sudden, it just went away, and I couldn't find it again. And again, maybe that's it. Maybe it's just that's golf. That's the way it goes, and I've got to find my way around the course with or without driver. 2 years ago, if you had told me that I could go out and, like I said, I've played 6 rounds of golf in the month of March, my high round being a 90, my low round being an 84, I would have been thrilled with that. I said, yep, buy all day. I'll take that. Give it to me. I will be a happy man. But I just feel like I should be better. That with all the work, with everything that I've done to improve this game, I need to consistently be going out and putting up scores less than 85 and finding my way into the 70s. And to this point, it just hasn't happened. So where to go from here? Well, I'm going to keep playing golf. um, I'm going to keep taking lessons and working at my game. I talked about last week that I ordered a shot scope device to help me measure distances to front, center, and back of green and see if that helps me dial in my distances, if it helps me to do a better job with club selection. But right now, I just have to go back and I've got to grind with these irons, and I've got to find a way to hit consistently good iron shots. Now, on Saturday, I parred 3 of the par 4s, which to me would indicate that off of a tee box with the ball slightly up on a tee, I was hitting pretty good iron shots into greens that ranged anywhere from 125 yards to 165 yards. So maybe it's, again, something when I'm out in the open, middle of the fairway, in the rough, in how I'm aligning, how I'm taking those shots into greens. Because I do still think beyond hitting the ball thin, my left to right dispersion is much greater than it should be. And I'm having a hard time hitting targets. But like I said, with that, still 6 greens in regulation on Saturday, 6 greens in regulation on Sunday. So that's an improvement. And I just need to keep working at it. I need to get better everywhere. Hopefully my driver comes back. Again, I was thrilled with the way I was hitting driver over the past month. Not sure where it went for the last 6 or 7 holes on Sunday, but hopefully that was a blip on the radar and go back out this coming weekend and the driver's back. I think I'm getting better around the greens. Still a lot of work to do there, but the approach shots is an area where I felt like that was my strength, and now not so much anymore. So while my handicap is still not exactly where I'd like it to be, it's beginning to come back around. I had hit a low of 15.5 on January 18th after a rough, really, January and February, ballooned up to 17.9 on March 2nd. And now I found my way back to 17.1 over these past 2 rounds of golf. But to get back into that 15 area, I've got to be putting up rounds of less than 85, 82, 83, 84. That's what's going to get me back there. And if you've listened to the podcast, you know what I'm going to say. I'm going to keep at it. I'm going to keep working at it. This is not an easy game. From week to week, things come, things go. The driver's here, the driver's gone, the putter's here, the putter's gone. But I do feel like I'm making progress. And one of these weekends, it's all going to come together, and I am going to put up some better scores. So that's where I'm at. And I hope in hearing that, I hope it allows you to give yourself a break in your golf game a little bit. But if you go out there and get better every week, God love you. But my guess is no matter where you are, you see some of the same things. You see progress, you see regress, you take 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. That's golf. That's the game. You watch the PGA Tour and, well, Scotty Scheffler does a lot. Same guy doesn't win every weekend. The same people, and you saw Scotty at the Players Championship barely make the cut, and then over the weekend go up and put up some good rounds. So it is a tough game. It is tough to play consistently. And that's my message this week is identify the things that you need to work on, go out there and work at it, and go out and keep playing, because I can tell you I'm going to. So I appreciate everybody being here. Next week, I will give you my shot scope review, see what I think, tell you if I believe that it has helped my game, my decisions on club selection, and if I start hitting more greens in regulation. And after a week off, I will be back at Golf Tech this week for another lesson. I'll update you on that. And then, of course, my rounds of golf. I'll let you know how it goes. And one of these days, I'm going to have that news to share that I did it. And when I get there, I'll want to, instead of shooting a 79, I want to shoot a 77. Like, it's just, that's the game. But try and enjoy those moments, right? It's easy to beat yourself up. It's easy to point out all of the things I did wrong this weekend. And I did do quite a few things wrong. But I also think back that I did hit a couple of really good shots, a couple of creative shots. I said I need to hit more greens in regulation. I did hit more greens in regulation. And even with feeling like my swing just still isn't right, just going out there, battling every hole, trying to go no worse than bogey, and just keep fighting, keep swinging, go out there and have a good time. And I'll talk to you next week. Thanks, everybody. If you made it this far, thank you. I can't tell you how much it means to me that you hung in there for the whole show. If you enjoyed it, please rate, review, and subscribe. And maybe even share it with a friend who is out there on their own golf journey. If you listen on Spotify, leave a comment or a question, or send me an email at breaking80over50@gmail.com. I promise I'll read every one. All music was provided by Epidemic Sound. I'll leave links to any of the content that I mentioned in the show notes. Keep swinging, keep smiling, and remember, it's a game. Get out there and have fun. Thanks, everybody.